We have been talking about this border issue for a long time, and it was mentioned. I've talked about it in so many different ways, and when somebody else does a better job of describing it, I'm going to steal it, but I'm also going to give them credit. Juan Ciscomani, the congressman from Southern Arizona, was speaking at a border event, and I heard him describe the issue of our border. It can be broken down into three areas. One is border security, the other is immigration, and the other is commerce and trade. They all work together, but they're independent of each other, and sometimes it takes independent things to fix the problems. What we have seen is the three of them together. The horrible immigration system we have with what's going on with people filing false asylum claims, which we know they're bogus. That's the issue, is as much as I am an immigration advocate, and I truly am, we have to have a system that works. Right now, what the cartels are doing is horrible, but the immigration system is a mess, which is causing this massive number of people to circumvent our system. But it also affects border security because they are going around the border ports of entry. Now they're overwhelming us. And then the commerce and trade part of it. Some businesses in Rocky Point are closing near Lukeville. Here is a lot of this. Here is an AZ family story. Here is a small business in what we call Rocky Point or Puerto Penasco, struggling to find customers.
Nobody come.
Manuel Valenteres knows what slow season is like along the Rodeo Drive shopping strip in Puerto Penasco. He's had his business here since the 90s. This is a far cry from what he's used to seeing.
It's very, very quiet. This time of year, it's quiet. But now it's more quiet because not a lot of people want to drive to San Luis to come to Rocky Point.
So more people, they say they saw more people during COVID.
Near the port, the story is the same.
We experience more people visiting us on COVID than what is happening right now.
Some businesses already making the tough decision to close their doors. Martina Rosso lives off of tips as a server, wondering if his hours will be cut or if he'll soon be looking for another job.
They're not going to open anymore till they reopen the entry over there, Mariscos and Malecon, the one in blue. They closed last week. And to our left over here is another business, Flavio's restaurant, and they cut in hours and they cut in days of operations too.
So Mexico detains 2 Iranian migrants on FBI watch list. We hear more of border crisis in Arizona. The governor is launching a new border security operation. But the headlines continue to get worse and worse. Ghost town, Rocky Point feeling tourism loss after Lukeville Port of Entry closure. The president says that he is open to the possibility of expulsion and an expulsion law in exchange for aid for Ukraine. Another headline, Tucson shelter seeing 1,000 migrants a day asking for volunteer interpreters. So there's 2 narratives here, and both of them I hope you'll hear out. One of them says part of the political world is compromise, and somebody gets what they want in order for you to get what you want. The other argument is there are some things that have to be done because they're the right thing to do. And right now, the crisis at the border, and I don't know how this is going to play out politically. I know how it should in my mind. But in a situation like this, it has transcended politics. In other words, there are just as many broke Democrats from this as there are Republicans. This is not a partisan political issue. That an immigration system in the bigger picture, I look at things in concentric circles. I got this weird vision in my head of the big picture, the biggest, widest circles from the center. And on the issue of this immigration, Americans are souring on the idea of immigration to our country. We're souring on it because everybody is now called a migrant. We don't have legal migrants and illegal migrants because we don't want to insult someone that's here illegally. It's not meant to be an insult. It's an identifier. You're in the country illegally. Period. Now, is there a good reason for it? We can talk about that. Should there be relief to you? We can talk about that as well. But facts are still the facts. The people that have come here the right way, the people that have done it the right way, within the laws of the United States, they are migrants to this country. Many of them become our visa holders. They become permanent resident status. They get dual citizenship, or they're a citizen in the U.S. They go through the process. They spend the money. They get the education. They do all the things that are necessary. Those people are migrants. They are legal migrants. I'm not looking to brand somebody with a scarlet letter, but in the big thing, the big picture, Americans at large are beginning to sour on the idea of immigration because of what's happening here. That's bad. But as you get closer and closer to the center of this, the devastation in southern Arizona, Tucson shelters are seeing 1,000 migrants a day. How is that sustainable? It isn't. You've got businesses on both sides of the border that are failing. American-owned businesses and Mexican-owned businesses. We have people on the terror watch list being detained. Multiple people from Syria and Iran have been stopped at our border recently. This is, and they call them, they have a statistic, and it's OTMs, other than Mexicans, because it's the Mexican border. And so our country for decades has been keeping track of what other nations are using Mexico as a pathway to our nation through our southern border. And so we are seeing a big uptick in all of this. It's a national security issue. So no matter if you're thousands of miles away looking at the big picture part of this because it affects you as well, or if you are looking specifically at what's happening in southern Arizona, this is bad. The cartels, not only do they control who comes and goes, they are shooting people that are not using cartel help to get across the border. This is an absolute failure. So if the Republicans have no choice but to negotiate with the president and Ukraine aid, I think their hand is going to be forced into doing that. But the American people, in my opinion, need to stand up. I think it would be much better coming from a Kyrsten Sinema or from a Ruben Gallego or from a Mark Kelly or from a Katie Hobbs. I'm talking about the president's own party that's directly affected in fighting for Arizona and standing up. And I know that Kyrsten Sinema is an independent, but she caucuses with the Democrats. She was a Democrat. And those voices have to stand up and say to the administration, you should be changing this because it's a good thing to do. You should be signing a law that expels people because it's the right thing to do to slow the tide of people coming. It shouldn't be used as a bargaining chip. Now, we don't live in that perfect world, but will the American people make that demand? Will they see this for what it is? The president is using this horrible situation where businesses are being lost, money is being lost for the working class people that depend on those tips and those jobs. They're being used as a bargaining chip so the president can get what he wants in Ukraine. That doesn't seem right. That seems like politics.
Thanks for watching The Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch the first season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.